Hello guys, Dello304 here. So today we're going to be talking about my home networking hardware. It's going to kind of give you a little overview, just kind of talk about some things relating to that and kind of how the setup has changed recently. So before I do that though, I'm going to begin with kind of a backstory. Over here at this house, I've pretty much always had issues with my internet. And you know, this dates back to unrelated events like having AT&T U-verse, which is what I used to have. Basically, the internet's just been really freaking unreliable here, and I've never figured it out. And even when we got Comcast, it seems like as soon as we got Comcast, after a little while, the internet would just randomly drop out, especially on Wi-Fi. It was less prevalent, it was less apparent on Ethernet via a wired connection, but it still happened, and it really pissed me off. So before, my original networking hardware was this, which is an Asus RT-N65R wireless router, and I had a Netgear something or other cable modem. And so I originally thought that it was the cable modem's fault, and so I decided to swap the cable modem out. So I swapped it with a Motorola SB6141, which is what I'm currently using. And I kept this router. And so after that, it seemed to be a little better, but it was still dropping out for some weird reason. And so I was like, what the hell? And so I kind of just ignored it for a while, but something happened at my other house. And so some of you may know my parents are divorced, so I have two houses. A couple of days ago at my dad's house, the internet just completely shat the bed. And we had a Comcast provided cable modem and a Comcast provided Netgear WNR 1000 very basic wireless and wireless router. And so that worked flawlessly for about 2 years. But it was really weird because it just completely cut out, and we wondered why. And I called into Comcast, and they were like, well, your equipment is pretty old, so if you tried everything else, you should go to a Comcast service center, give them back the old equipment, and they will give you a free wireless AC compatible gateway. And so that's what I did. And I brought the gateway home, set it up, and it worked perfectly. And it also, as a side effect of that, almost quadrupled our internet speed because of all the Comcast promotion. But that's irrelevant. It worked flawlessly, and so that got me thinking over here, what if that is the same issue with my router here? And I've had this router for maybe a year and a half, close to 2 years, and I never thought anything of it. But according to Comcast, they changed something a couple of months ago that kind of messed with the internet, and so that was their reasoning for wanting to swap out the equipment at my dad's house. So over here, I got kind of confused. I got thinking, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to swap out the router and see if it makes a difference. And if it doesn't, I'll probably just return it. And so with that, I am saying I'm retiring this router for now. It was a pretty decent router, although, you know, again, apparently, according to some internet research, this has a connectivity bug in the firmware where it will just drop out the WAN after an extended amount of time. And so, well, basically, I needed to buy a router to replace this, and I wanted to go with something that was going to be reliable and something that was going to be pretty high-end. I wanted something that was going to give me good throughput and such. And so I decided to go with something. So you guys may remember the Linksys WRT54G, a very legendary router for its time. We were actually using one of these about 10 years ago, but of course it's too old now. But that router is an absolute legend, and so of course I bought the spiritual successor, the Linksys WRT1200AC. Now, of course, there is a higher-end version that came out before this one, the WRT1900AC, but I did not really need that, and so I decided to just go with the $100 cheaper WRT1200AC. So as you can see, here it is. I bought it yesterday. This is what I'm using now in place of this. Still using the Motorola cable modem, which is currently out there. And of course, this router used to be also out there, but since I've run a 50-foot Ethernet cable, which you may be able to see there, I decided to go ahead and, instead of using this 50-foot Ethernet cable to go from the router to my computer, I'm using the 50-foot Ethernet cable to go from the modem to the router and then to my computer via gigabit Ethernet. And so I only did that just to have the router in my room because I spent a lot of money on this and I want to kind of look at it every now and then. But of course, there it is. Now, this router is pretty powerful. It's a pretty, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's considered a mid-range router if you look at the super high-end stuff, but this is quite good. It's of course dual band gigabit compatible router. It has 4 Ethernet ports. We have of course wireless AC support since it's in the name. We have a total throughput of 400 megabits per second capable on the 2.4 gigahertz network and 867 megahertz capable on the 5 gigahertz AC network. So that's cool. And of course we also have a bunch of ports on the back. You see we have 4 Ethernet ports, 4 LAN ports I should say. We got a Wi-Fi protected setup. We got 1 WAN port of course, USB 3.0 and a USB eSATA combo, along with a reset button and a hardware power switch. So that is pretty cool. Of course you can see here it's just demonstrating the kind of differences between their pretty much 3 flagship routers. This is of course the mid-tier one, but very powerful router. This router actually has a 1.3 gigahertz dual core SoC. I believe it is a Marvell SoC. And so pretty powerful, pretty beefy for a router. It has 256 megabytes of RAM and 128 megabytes of internal storage. And so of course it runs the Linksys firmware, but of course one selling point of the old 54G was the open source availability, and so it is optional. You can load something like OpenWRT on this. I believe DDWRT also has a build, but I haven't found the need to do that. Nonetheless, that is a quick tour of the network hardware itself. Of course, I have the router just on my desk here, just kind of to look at it. It is a pretty nice looking router, and it's also very well built. And so, yeah, pretty sweet there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the software side of things and see what kind of performance I'm getting out of my network here. So first of all, I want to just go ahead and detail the network speeds. So we have a speed test here. This is over gigabit Ethernet connected directly to this MacBook Pro. And so as you can see, I'm getting 120 down and about close to 7 up. I was only getting about 90 down before, and I know Comcast has been doing a bunch of promotions, and I heard they were also going to bump it up to 150 or something, but I never saw that. But here, as you can see, I'm seeing a 30 megabits per second increase in the download speed, and the upload is pretty much the same. So that's pretty cool. I did not think that simply swapping out my router would, of course, bump my internet speed up this much, but it definitely did. So that's over gigabit Ethernet while not doing anything. And this is while uploading a YouTube video because someone suggested I do that. So as you can see, pretty much no difference there. So that's cool. And of course, we'll go ahead. I have to put the camera down for this real quick. I don't even need to do that actually. Let's go ahead and open up my Wi-Fi Explorer application. So as you can see, I have my network here, the Portal 5G. Of course, it's on channel 149. This is the 5 gigahertz. It's 80 megahertz bandwidth, so that's pretty sweet. As you can see, compared to the other routers, I have one of the best routers around here. Pretty funny. So yeah, it's of course 802.11ac, and you know, of course, it's WPA2 and all of that happy stuff. Go ahead and look at the channel map for around here. You can see mine is one of the only networks around here, so that's pretty cool, less interference. But of course, I use Ethernet most of the time. Anyway, that's going to be pretty much it. I don't think I missed much in this video. That's going to be just my little tour of my updated network hardware. And so far with this new router and general setup, I've had no hiccups. The internet has not gone down or, you know, given me any problems. And it's been pretty much a full day now. So pretty sweet. So there you have it. Just a little update on my network hardware. This is going to pretty much just be a backup router. I'll just keep it around in case I ever find a use for it. But otherwise, yeah, I now have what's seemingly a much more reliable network. So thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you later.